Hello everybody, it's your boy Sablis, back with another one, and Pokemon Go just released one of the best items ever. Again, the Master Ball just got its third re-release ever, meaning that it's the third Master Ball you would need to capture that third Galarian bird. But besides the Galarian birds, which other legendary Pokemon would you want to use your Master Ball on? Is a question that I've been receiving from a lot of people. Everyone asking me, if I don't want to use my Master Ball on a Galarian bird, well, what legendary should I use it on? And today, we are here to not only ponder that question, but finally answer it. Today, we will be doing a tier list on which legendary Pokemon you should use your Master Ball on. At the end of the day, this is a Master Ball tier list, so I'll be going off of usefulness and rarity. So if there's a Pokemon that you think shouldn't be in a specific tier, it's probably because you're going off of the fact that that Pokemon is just generally overall good and not rare. Starting off with the F tier, aka Pokemon that you should never use your Master Ball on. Starting off with Uxie, Mesprit, Registeel, Regirock, Regice, and Suicune. You may be wondering, why are Uxie and Mesprit on this? When you find them in the wild, well, that's extremely rare. So that warrants you to probably want to use your Master Ball on it. And all I gotta say to that is, when you find them in the wild, they are now 100% captures. It doesn't even matter if they're shiny or not, which now, yeah, they can be shiny. They're 100% captures. And you may be going like, Registeel? Why is Registeel on here? He's not a bad Pokemon. You can use him in PvP. I don't want to count PvP for this because, well, PvP is just completely luck based on the IVs and the Pokemon that you're able to get at that time. And Registeel comes back pretty often, so therefore he's not really that rare. You can understand why Regirock, Regice, and Suicune are on here. They're some of the worst Pokemon in Pokemon Go I've seen ever. And yeah, that's really the F tier. Very short and not that much Pokemon on it, but trust me, this is not the last you'll be seeing of the F tier. Moving on to D tier. These are Pokemon that aren't really too good, but are not F tier, completely useless to capture. You'll find yourself using them every once in a while, probably every like 2 years or so, which, though not useful, still pretty useful. And there's also some Pokemon here that are just purely brought down by the fact that they're just simply other better Pokemon that later on in the tier list. This tier consists of Regigigas, Articuno, Moltres, Tornadus, Landorus, Thundurus, Latios, and Latios. This is quite the tier, with some odd and also expected Pokemon on this, with Regigigas mainly being the most expected one. Also, the Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus that I am including on this tier list are indeed the incarnate forms, not the Therian forms. So the Therian forms, you will see those a lot later into this tier list. But you may be going like, Latios and Latios? That doesn't make any sense at all. And you may be going like that because the Megas automatically should place them higher on here, but they're not. Why is that the case? Easy. It's because there's another Mega which does everything they do, but better. If you're somebody who played GoFest 2023, you should know exactly what Mega I'm talking about. But we'll get into him way later down on the road. But with that, that's D tier. There's not really that much to say. All these Pokemon are useful in some type of way, but they're just simply very much outclassed by everything else, to the point where you only use them in emergencies where you have nothing else. Alright, let's move into probably the most controversial tier with the most answers that I have to explain on why they're there. The C tier. A lot of these Pokemon that are here, you'll probably disagree with me on putting here, but guess who doesn't care? Yours truly. This is my tier list. I say and do whatever I want. Moving on, this tier list starts with Zapdos, Ho-Oh, Lugia, Azelf, and another legendary dog, Entei, Kyurem, Palkia, Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Lele, and Heatran. I know this is a very controversial list of Pokemon, but I feel like I did a good job putting it together. All these Pokemon have one thing in common: the fact that they are simply marginally outdone by Pokemon that do their jobs better, and the fact that they're just not that rare. Kyurem comes back every December, and I mean every December. Like literally last year it came back, freaking 2022 it came back. I made the shiny Kyurem video. I have proof that it came back that year. All these Pokemon come back a lot. The Tapus are currently in their legendary cycle, meaning that, you know, they get released, then they get released shiny, and then they get released shiny with their legacy moves. So it's like they're coming back every year, and next year they're gonna get released again until like they go on a hiatus for a year, and then after that they come back again. It's a legendary release cycle that repeats itself every single time a new legendary gets released. Zapdos is here because why not? It's an electric type. It's a more useful typing than the other two birds. And Heatran's also here because it's just useless. Like, I don't even understand why it's in the game. I should have put it in F tier. Actually, forget that. I shouldn't have put it in S tier. It's actually kind of decent at some things, you know? Yeah. But with that, that is the C tier. Very weird tier with weird Pokemon. Moving on to another lengthy tier, the B tier. These Pokemon in this tier are actually useful, but not so useful to the point where you have to throw the Master Ball at them when you get a hundo. They're just useful to the point where, yeah, using the Master Ball would be pretty beneficial. So let's get into the B tier. This tier consists of Raikou, Yveltal, Xerneas, Landorus Therian, Tornadus Therian, Thundurus Therian, Dialga, Cobalion, Virizion, and Terrakion. The XY duo is probably the oddest out of these, but yet again, what I went off of is the raid scheduling. These things haven't been back since August of 2024, and these are legendaries still currently in the legendary cycle. They're set to come back this year, but they still haven't came back. And usually they bring them back earlier, and then later, and then earlier. We're on the earlier stage. Why haven't they came back yet? So I'm going to put them at B tier because of this single reason. And since this reason was plausible, I could actually put one of my favorite Pokemon, Yveltal, in B tier. Yay. Also, all three of the Therians are just straight up good Pokemon. With their new moves especially, they're actually pretty good. And also, the Swords of Justice are just straight up overpowered and broken. And I feel like they do indeed need a nerf because there's no way that these fighting type Pokemon can just be this broken. But yet again, the fighting typing isn't really too useful because you can see that most of the Pokemon that are useful here aren't actually weak to fighting. Dialga Altered Form is just not as good as its origin form as well. The tier I'm probably the most excited for besides the S tier has always been the A tier because I have some pretty good Pokemon in here and I feel like it's the tier that I did perform the best on creating. So let's get right into it. This tier consists of Origin Palkia, Origin Dialga, Zekrom, Reshiram, and Origin Giratina and Altered Giratina. Wow, this is such a small tier. Why was I so excited and ecstatic to show you guys what I have on this tier? Because all these Pokemon are being purely ranked off of how good they are as general Pokemon. Zekrom and Reshiram are some of the best electric and fire types respectively, and you already know that electric types are pretty useful, as I stated with Zapdos, since most of the meta-relevant types on this list are actually flying type. So you would need a good electric type to take these down. We also have Origin Palkia and Dialga, which one is good in raids and one is good in PvP. And you know, I'm not really doing anything with PvP with this list, but the adventure effects being exclusive to these two Pokemon, let alone warrants them to be an A tier. And don't even get me started on the two Giratinas. Altered and Origin are both good Pokemon. One for raid defense and PvP, and then one for just raids in general. Finally, we are on to the S tier. This is probably my favorite tier out of everything because it's short and simple and cuts straight to the chase. So let's get into it. This tier consists of Mewtwo, Groudon, and Kyogre. Mewtwo is a very good Pokemon, but since we are not counting shadow forms and just base forms, this thing is only going to be an S tier. And that's still pretty good. It's just an extremely diverse Pokemon with an extremely diverse moveset. And Groudon and Kyogre, they're self-explanatory. The Shadows, though we're not counting them, are number 2 on ground type and water type raid attackers, and their Primals, which we are counting, are the number 1 respectively ground type and water type raid attackers. This says a lot, and they're also kind of decent in PvP. I know, we're not counting PvP, but I feel like it's still good to mention. Not to mention that the base forms are still number 3 respectively ground type and water type raid attackers. This is still a very good feat to reach, especially from these Pokemon. Every Pokemon, every legendary Pokemon at least, strives to be Mewtwo, Groudon, and Kyogre. So you may be looking at this tier list and going like, there's a few Pokemon missing, and one of those Pokemon are Cresselia. I didn't have enough space to fit it in the C tier, which is where I wanted to put it since I wanted this video to be completely and utterly natural made, and I didn't want to use any type of tier list website to make this video. I decided to do it by hand, and I didn't have enough space for Cresselia. So Cresselia is in C tier if you're wondering, but here's where all the other Pokemon that are missing are. Alright then, so that's the rest of the Pokemon. Starting off with F tier, Regieleki and Regidrago just straight up suck. Moving on to D tier with Zamazenta, he's just aight. Moving on to B tier with Lunala and Solgaleo, we have never been able to encounter these guys in the wild. We've only been able to counter Cosmog. So if you're sure it's not a Zorua, if you see any of these guys in the wild or get into an encounter with them, throw the Master Ball. Moving on to A tier, we have Zacian, which is just apparently a good Pokemon, and also it never ever comes to raids. So yeah, throw the Master Ball at it if you get a hundo. Next up, we have the 3 Galarian legendary birds, which are pretty self-explanatory. They rarely spawn, and they're possibly the Pokemon you want to use your Master Ball on the most. It doesn't even matter if it's a hundo. Yeah, I know you're confused. Another tier? I thought we ended at S tier. No, we did not. S tier is not where this ends. Instead, it ends at S plus tier with only 1 Pokemon on it. The best Pokemon to use your Master Ball on, the best legendary Pokemon to use your Master Ball on if you get a hundo, is going to be the most iconic Pokemon ever. The Pokemon ascending from the clouds above that has made it all the way to S plus is going to be Rayquaza / Mega Rayquaza. This Pokemon changed everything when it released during 2023 Go Fest. Not only being a shocking Pokemon to release during 2023 Go Fest, adding to an already very weird year, especially with how they were doing Go Fest, it was clear they knew this thing was going to be impactful and change the meta exponentially. Before release, I'm pretty sure they actually had to nerf its final CP because it was too high and made it too powerful. With this though, I have to admit to you, Mega Rayquaza changed everything. It made Virizion soloable, and before Virizion wasn't able to be soloed, it was impossible to solo. But the release of this one Pokemon made it very much possible to solo a Virizion. No Pokemon has ever reached the feats that Mega Rayquaza have reached, and every Pokemon strives to reach the feats that Rayquaza has made. But with that, that is the end of the Pokemon Go Master Ball tier list. If you want to, I will eventually be posting my tier list on my community posts. I will take a final picture and put the complete tier list on the community post, and I will then make another community post with the S plus tier Rayquaza. So yeah. With that, that is the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I really hope you're now able to come to a conclusion on what you want to use your Master Ball on. So with that, it's your boy Sablis out, and I know I haven't been posting that much outside gameplay content, but that will be changing soon with the next event Ultra Space Wonders. I will be posting something for that. Peace.